eating clean and going green makes sense, but the question is what to drink.
So we've come into Corney and Barrow to talk to head wine buyer Rebecca Palmer and taste some wines.
So Pete, there's a lot of interest about the Mediterranean diet, but what actually is it?
It's a very good question. The Mediterranean diet is more about a lifestyle than a diet. It was what was studied in the 50s and 60s in the Mediterranean region. It basically involves keeping active, lots of freshly prepared seasonal produce, lots of fish, not too much red meat and sweet things, but essentially nothing in excess. And of course, wine is a really important part of the Mediterranean diet.
So what part does it play actually?
Well, interestingly, it's quite a big part. You're supposed to have wine every day.
Every day?
Every day. Not bad. But the key is not too much. So you have a small amount every day with meals.
And in terms of how much you can have, it's not very much, but for women, let's say a 14% wine, you can have about 175 millilitres, up to that amount. For men, you can have up to 250 millilitres of a 14% wine. But if you want to play safe, keep to the lower end of that spectrum, especially for wines with more alcohol.
But the great thing, I think, really is the fact that you're talking Mediterranean diet, you can have Mediterranean wines, and they're so beautiful. You know, they've been created to go with food. And so we've got wines like, we've got some here, but Assyrtiko we loved when we tried the Mediterranean diet because it's a bit different. It's a Greek wine and just lovely acidity as well as the fruit. You've also got rosé wines, lovely fruity red wines, so maybe from the southern Italy, southern France, that have got lots of flavour and lots of juicy fruitiness.
Well, it's interesting that you've talked in terms of wines like that, because there was a selection I thought would work really well for today. And should we have a look at them now?
Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, we've got an Assyrtiko from Santorini, the volcanic island of Greece. And this is a really lovely wine. I think it's got that lovely smoky, bright, juicy acidity.
Yeah. I mean, we're big fans of Assyrtiko, and we found when we were doing the Mediterranean diet, well, I remember cooking a big lemon roast chicken, and we had it with some cauliflower couscous, which I'd never made before, but it was really interesting, lovely. But loads of herbs, tomatoes, chickpeas, that kind of thing. But equally, Assyrtiko is one of those wines that will go with many different foods, and we're thinking olive oil is a big part of the Mediterranean diet, and something like an Assyrtiko with its acidity, whether you're having griddled fish with olive oil or just some bread and olive oil, it's a really nice complement.
It's really fresh, I think.
It makes you salivate, doesn't it? It makes you think of food, and those are the wines we want to have.
Absolutely, salivate and celebrate. Rather like this wine. The next one we have comes from Provence.
So a lovely rosé.
A rosé, and this is actually one of my favourite estates. It is actually organic estate, but privately owned and pretty old actually. But the wines it makes are so pale but tasty at the same time.
Oh, it smells gorgeous. Now, with a rosé, you want it to kind of enchant you. You want it to be sexy. But with this, it's really important that it goes with food. It's not too much, but it's going to work really well with different kinds of dishes.
I mean, rosé tended to feature quite heavily when we were going through a Mediterranean diet phase. But one dish I particularly remember was having some lovely griddled tuna, so quite a meaty fish. And then we had it with a cannellini bean, herb, red onion, anchovy kind of salad with lots of olive oil. So it was really quite punchy. And what that tends to do, because there's some saltiness in the food, which often is in Mediterranean with the cheeses, the rosé becomes more fruity. And it was just a beautiful match.
Yeah, and I think that the fruit in here with that slightly creamy undertow would work very well with some kind of recipe.
Definitely.
Like
I mean, rosé is a winner with Mediterranean food, it really is.
And this is a delicious Provençal rosé, and I think it would go with lots of food and year round. This is not just a summer drink. We should be drinking good rosé all year round.
Also, just something you said earlier, it's 13%, so I can have a little bit more.
You can.
Right? Without exceeding my 175.
Exactly.
Right. Shall we move on to the third wine?
Red peas.
Yeah. Which I'm intrigued to know what you'll think of this one.
So what is this then, Rebecca?
A quick pour. This wine comes from Mount Etna in Sicily. It's called Passapisciaro, and it is made from a grape that probably not very many people will have heard of, called Nerello Mascalese. And it is a grape with nice acidity and tannin, though the colour wouldn't necessarily suggest that it's a very heavy wine, but it's still punchy. It's got loads of flavour, but lovely approachable flavours, I think.
It's really pale in colour and really delicate in flavour, but it's got lots of lovely.
And immediately this kind of warm fruit character comes through. And I think, what's important with the Mediterranean diet, you don't have a lot of red meat. That's not a big part of the diet. But when you do, it's going to be something like a leg of lamb, maybe with salsa verde, maybe with a big salad. And to me, a wine like this that's not too heavy, but it's got that bit of tannin, it's got the warmth of fruit, beautiful with lamb.
I think it's lively enough to work with lamb. I love that idea.
Yeah, or it could work. It's because it's quite elegant. It can work with something like a meatier fish, like a tuna, or something quite hearty, tomato-based dish. It's just a lovely, elegant. So many of these Mediterranean wines are a little bit different, really characterful, but actually quite versatile with food. So cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.